Welcome to the series on data warehousing fundamental for beginners. I am Anil Bhavnani. In this series, we'll be covering starting from the basic of the data warehousing to the advanced topic. Each section we'll divide into different modules. We'll start with the first module. Let me bring my screen. In first module, we'll be touching on the basic concepts of data warehousing, mainly from the terminologies that one should be aware of. What is data warehouse? Why any business should invest time and money in building the data warehouse? And we will discuss on the simple end-to-end warehouse architecture, how it looks like, more than architecture, the building blocks of the warehouse. A data warehouse, it is a centralized repository for storing the structured data that comes from the different source systems. On the left-hand side, these represents the different kind of transactional source systems. Let me quickly jump to the key terms. There itself I will explain those terminologies. So ETL and ELT. So as a data practitioner, these are the terms one should be aware of. So ETL is extract, transform, and load, where we call out that data has to be extracted from different source systems. And before bringing into the warehouse, it should be transformed, as in doing the quality checks before loading or doing some aggregations before loading. That's the, and then loading it, that's the L part. And then most prevailing methodology nowadays is ELT, that's extract, load, and transform, where we don't need to transform the data at the first layer, bring the data as is in whatever the raw form it is there. And we'll talk on the difference in data lake and data warehouse as well. But ELT is another methodology where we don't focus on transforming the data first. Second is OLTP and OLAP. OLTP basically refers to online transactional processing, doing all the kind of daily transfer. For example, if sales is happening and some database is recording those transactions in real time, for those kind of systems, databases come into picture, and those are more prevalent to the OLTP systems, like all the Oracles, MySQLs, or SQL servers of the world. Those are the OLTP systems. And then OLAP is online analytical processing. That is where the data warehouse comes into the picture, and in that category specifically, data warehouse will fall, where we bring the where we do the analysis on top of the history data. Third terms, as in data warehouse practitioner, one should know is the data modeling. We'll talk on this in detail as well in terms of different schema designs, like star schema or the snowflake schema. And also one should be aware how to make an efficient designing of the data warehouse, what facts tables we need to define, what dimension tables we need to define. So here the whole idea is data modeling is also one ingredient part of the data warehouse practitioners. Then history load, as I said, in data warehouse we don't do the analysis of the transactional data. We bring all those transactions as in history and then do analytics on top of it. Then we'll focus on knowing the rules of data warehouse. These are the basic characteristics of any data warehouse building. First is integrated. Why data warehouse is integrated? Because it needs to integrate with different source system, multiple source system, heterogeneous source system, and then bring the data at consolidated one place. That's how the data warehouse has to be integrated. Second is subject oriented. Data warehouse is always built with some business subjective when it is identified. Some business subject is identified, like it could be a finance data that one need to analyze, it could be a marketing data one need to analyze, or it could be even HR data that one has to analyze and make decision out of it. So it is always built on a specific subject. Third is time variant. Time variant is nothing, a fancy term where we that it stores the history data. So all the data that is coming into data warehouse has to be associated with a timestamp, so that we can trace back during that time what was the data that came into data warehouse. And then non-volatile. Non-volatile is a bit complex thing that we'll again explore in the upcoming session. Non-volatility characteristics of data warehouse talks on whatever data comes into data warehouse has not to be changed. Different versions can be created on top of it, but it has to remain intact, whatever history data that comes once into data warehouse. Basic example, say I want to trace back what was my sales number 5 years back. So if that number, exact number, is not stored in my history, I will not have the right number what was my sales 5 years back. That's the non-volatility nature of my data warehouse. Then comes why business need to think on investing the money and time in creating the data warehouse. Two broad buckets. One is data-driven decisions. So once, because data warehouse brings the past of the data, it has the current data as well bringing in, and then with the AI and ML coming into the picture, there are algorithms available where we can predict based on the trends. We can also get to understand the unknowns in our data, which is humanly not possible. And then that's why instead of relying on your intuitions, make decisions which are driven from the facts and the data. For an example, as in retail store, I think my intuition or my sense says that polos are more prevalent and would be a good t-shirts to be sold. But my data says that now trend has changed and oversized t-shirts are more prevalent. I should focus on stocking the oversized t-shirts. So that's why I'll be able to make a right data-driven decisions. Then one-stop shop, as it is a consolidated place, we have all the data from different departments. We can integrate those. My all decision making will not rely on reaching individually to the different source systems. I will have at one place all the sales data, marketing data, finance data. So it becomes a one-stop shop for my different assets in the organization. So this is one end-to-end key blocks of any data warehouse environment where the data warehouse would be interacting with. On the left-hand side, these could be different sources. It could be databases, it could be files, it could be sensor data from IoT, or it could be ERP or CRM system. And then in here, ETL and ELT comes into picture, which typically loads the data and bring it into the data warehouse. At the heart of everything is the data warehouse. We'll discuss this in detail in the medallion architecture as well. What are the recommended architecture designs, why we should have raw data, curate data, and serving data, layers actually. But this comprises the data warehouse. And then comes the consumption layer where all the reporting tools like Tableaus of the world or Looker of the world comes into the picture. And it could be a doc queries as well on the data warehouse. At the bottom, the key component becomes the governance, which takes care of who is accessing what kind of things. And also we need all the systems to be automated. That's where the scheduling layer also comes into the picture. So with this, we are at the end of the module 1. See you in the next module.